If today you saw a man or a woman hitting someone in the street, or if a man were to hit his wife, no one would have much difficulty seeing that as abuse or an act punishable by law. Yet if a child were to do the same thing to a sibling, you'd probably label it sibling rivalry, healthy competition, or normal argumentative behavior. For the most part, parents in society expect fights and aggression among siblings. And so parents often don't see sibling abuse as an actual problem until serious harm occurs. Noted, most kids are gonna fight, squabble, and argue at some points in their childhood. But how do you know when to draw the line and when this pervasive form of hidden violence does in fact become an abusive situation? Here's a textbook definition to start. Sibling abuse is the chronic physical, emotional, or sexual abuse by one sibling of another. Simple enough? Maybe not. Research shows that violence between siblings is quite common. In fact, really common. In fact, it's probably more common than abuse by parents and even spousal abuse. Some of the most violent members of families are in fact the children themselves, and a study that took place in 2005 put the number of assaults each year to children by a sibling at about 35 to 100 kids. So now imagine where that number would be today, almost 15 years on. So how do you know the difference? What distinguishes abuse from rivalry is the behavior is severe, repeated, with a deliberate intention to harm the other. And it's usually the younger sibling at the receiving end. Here are other important distinguishing factors that are really important to note. One child is always the victim, and the roles rarely change. The anger will not just blow over. The behavior is repeated, such as hitting, kicking, biting, tickling, pinching, and smacking. Then, of course, you have the noticeable changes in the victim's behavior, such as maybe difficulty sleeping, bad dreams, changes in eating habits, emotional outbursts, or newfound anxiety and nervousness that didn't exist before. The victim will also probably be known to repeatedly complain or tattle to the parents or caregiver as a way to really actually be asking for help. Whereas with rivalry, children will usually fight over an object, a toy that wasn't shared, a belonging that was taken without asking a parent's permission, or even sometimes just fighting over parents' affection or more time with one parent. Do you see the difference? When wondering about what the underlying cause is, it's difficult to actually say. However, this can occur in dysfunctional, neglectful, or homes in which abuse takes place, where parents fail to set boundaries or apply appropriate disciplinary methods to their children. Also, marital conflict and dissatisfaction, maternal self-criticism, household chaos, and financial stress are some of the factors that constantly come up when researching into the hows and whys of sibling abuse. Besides the direct dangers of sibling abuse, the abuse can cause all kinds of long-term problems that follow the child into their adult lives. The effects of sibling abuse are dire and closely parallel to those of other forms of child abuse too, such as low self-esteem, eating disorders, inability to differentiate between pleasure and pain, difficulty developing and maintaining healthy relationships, loneliness and depression, shame, fear and anger, various forms of PTSD, and sometimes even suicide. When hearing all of this, I understand if you may feel really uncomfortable and maybe even concerned after reevaluating your own lives and your own home internal dynamics, especially if you're the parents of a multiple child household. So here are some points to consider about what you can do to prevent it. First off, educate yourself on the difference between the two. Step in early before rivalry can turn into abuse by setting appropriate boundaries for what is and what isn't acceptable behavior. Establish safety boundaries within your own home by coming up with a set of household rules. They're a useful tool to reinforce what is expected and permissible in terms of behavior. Don't leave your children alone for extended periods of time. And don't solely rely on nannies and ayahs to take your role of a parent. And don't expect that your duty of care to your children can be done by anyone else other than yourself.